Yeah, I think that you have to live. There's a lot of practical advice I can give. In terms of the religious sense, I would say you need to live like God is always watching. You may have the opportunity to do something bad, or you may have the opportunity to steal some money or snake somebody, but in the end, you're going to pay for that, and the bill will be paid. I think if you do the right thing, in my experience, if you're a person who does the right thing, firm handshake, is on time, doesn't lie to anybody, does what he's supposed to do, is honest with a good heart, is genuinely polite to everyone he meets. If you are that person, you get very far in life. I've yet to meet people who just do all the simple things right, who completely fail at life. But I've met a lot of people who snake or steal some money and they get really rich, then they lose it all, or they get rich and end up a gambling addict or depressed or etc.
If you want a good society, so then you have to argue and sit and say, do these people want a happy, functioning society, or do they want something else?
I have to live the exact same life regardless of how I feel. So for me, happiness is not a good indicator on how life should be lived. You shouldn't wake up and say, how happy am I today? How does that affect how I act? That's not how I operate. I wake up and say, what must be done? What will allow me to be proud of myself? What will allow me to achieve? And those things will be done regardless of how I feel. And that's how the most successful people on earth all operate. The most successful people on earth don't only do things because they feel happy about doing them. The whole world doesn't give a fuck if men are happy or not. Nobody cares about men being happy. We talk about women being happy. We want children to be happy. If you look at a full-grown man on Christmas morning, he's smiling because his wife is smiling. He's smiling because his children are smiling. Nobody even buys him anything. What do they buy the dad? Socks? Nobody cares about men being happy. So why do you as a man care about you being happy? That's how you're going to fall into these traps. I'm a very content person. I live a fantastic life. I'm not miserable or depressed. I'm not sad ever. But I don't wake up and go, I want to be happy today. No, sir. I wake up and say, okay, things must be done. And those things will be completed regardless of how I feel. Regardless of how I feel. You can lock me in a dungeon for an unknown amount of time in Romania, and I will still complete as many push-ups as I can possibly do in the dark by myself. What else am I going to do? Sit there and be sad? Happy or sad? Push-ups must be done.
So this is down to monopolization. They monopolize the information. They try and get you to sell your soul, like I just explained, and change teams so that they don't have anybody with influence talking against their information monopolies. Why do they want to control information? Because once they control information, they can then monopolize everything else. They've monopolized violence, which is why they're trying to take your guns away in America. It's why in all other Western countries, they've already taken the guns away. They want to take away everybody's guns so they're the only people who can be violent. They also want to monopolize finance, money. They want to control all of the money. What do the rich always try and do? Get richer. And remember, there's only a few people who are allowed to work for the Matrix because of the monopolization principle. You cannot monopolize something if everybody's included. The basic premise of the Matrix is that the few take and they control the many. The few people decide what's on the news. They put it out to a few news outlets and the many consume it. The few people have all the money and the many struggle. This is what they want. They want the few to get ultra wealthy and they want the many to struggle. They only want to have a few people with power because monopolization is essential and key and core to their tenets. So they use the information monopoly along with the tools of the Matrix, the educational system, the medical system, the judicial system, mainstream media, and Hollywood, which is culture, to try and dumb you down and get you scared so that you'll allow them to steal all of your money. That is their goal, which is why they are anti-crypto. So let's talk about a mentality shift. How you do one thing is how you do everything. If you are efficient and you are hardworking in one thing, you're likely to be efficient and hardworking in all things. It's hard to find somebody who's very efficient and hardworking in area A and is a complete lazy slob idiot in area Y. That's not how it works. So once you understand this about information and you change your mentality to a peer-to-peer model of information, you're more likely to then want a peer-to-peer model for finance. And that damages the Matrix's control. So people like myself, we want everybody to say their opinions. We don't want gatekeepers or censorship. We want and use Twitter where anyone can talk. Elon came along and allowed it so anyone could talk, so there are multiple news sources. This is important for fact checking because if you have 3 main news sources all telling a lie, how can it be fact checked? When you have 1 million, you're going to have differing opinions. If somebody lies, it can be debunked in real time. If you have 3 news sources that have all the reach, even if you debunk them, how do you get reach? So this peer-to-peer ideal, this decentralization, this demonopolization is what the Matrix fears. They fear all of us having influence, voices, and finance that they cannot control. This has been my brand for the last 3 years. My brand has been individual sovereignty, self-respect, physical strength, financial capabilities, an individualistic mindset, the ability to stick up for what you mean and suffer for it. I've told all men that suffering is part of life and it's okay to suffer to tell the truth because God will reward you in the end. And what I am trying to do is, instead of there being 3 news sources, 3 newspapers, is have millions of people, all of you at home, with your own news source, your own point of view, and most importantly, your own finance. If we are going to resist the Matrix, it's extremely important that we get as hold of as much resources as possible before the Matrix regroups. The Matrix has been hit. It's wobbled, it's on the ropes because Trump won. But it is not gone, it is not dead. It is planning to regroup, and it is planning to come back in 4 years and crush us all. It's planning to put up a new wall that prevents anybody from escape of its grasp. It's planning to come down harder than ever before on misinformation, disinformation. They will blame the loss of this election on people lying on the internet. They will blame everything bad on Donald Trump because he's a bad person, everything good on Biden because he's a good person. They're going to lie through their teeth as long as they can, and their goal is to get power again and stop us all. If we get hold of as much money as possible in these next 4 years, if we all become as strong as possible so we're not easily scared into believing the Matrix in these next 4 years, if we all get big on Twitter, get information, talk the truth, tell people our opinions in these next 4 years, it is harder for them to regain the control. That's why it's important. I talk to people and they say, I don't care about politics. Then don't talk to me. I talk about politics. Politics is the world we live in. Politics are the laws you live by. Politics are your children, whether they're going to be suffering a surgery or not. Politics are whether a random immigrant stabs you to death. Politics are your life. You cannot avoid them. You cannot escape them. When women say, and I've had girls say to me, I don't care about politics. What are they saying? I'm afraid, I'm a silly little girl, I do what the Matrix says. It is your job to correct them, to teach them, to make them care, to make them understand. The more people we wake up, the harder it is for the Matrix to regain control. We need peer-to-peer information sources. And by extension, once you do one thing peer-to-peer, you're going to want to do everything peer-to-peer. The Matrix controls the money because it controls the Federal Reserve. It controls the stock market. It controls the banks. But they cannot control crypto. They cannot control Bitcoin, which is why crypto is directly tied to the ideas revolution, to the idea of people thinking for themselves, to this revolution where people wake up and no longer believe the news, is a direct positive correlation. The more people who think for themselves, the more crypto is going to rise. That is why crypto is the future. As long as free think ideas are the future, as long as peer-to-peer mindset is the future, then crypto is the future. Because you understand that if you have a central bank in charge of the money, they're going to steal it all. But with crypto, nobody is in charge. That's why it is extremely important you get as rich and as important and as strong as possible in these next 4 years before they begin their counterattack. I want you to understand the basics of what just happened here. It was a battle between monopolization of ideas, finance, influence, capability, and violence against individualism. That's what the election just was, and the individualists won. We must now prepare and regroup for the enemy's regroup, because they're going to come back harder than ever before with a new climate agenda, with CBDCs, with bullshit they pull out their ass to lock you in your house and make you broke. You do not just have a duty to get rich for yourself or for your Ferrari. You have a duty to get rich, to take as much money as possible from the Matrix and from the machine so that you can resist enslavement for humanity and for your bloodline. That is why it's important to get rich. That is why you must resist. That is why you must start training. This is extremely important. So I want you to understand, this has always been individualistic against monopolize. Now, let's talk about self-improvement. Because a lot of people say, well, that's all true, Andrew. Yes. Why do you talk about self-improvement? Well, that's pretty obvious, because by getting strong, you resist the matrix. By getting rich, you resist the matrix. By having a strong network of brothers who back you up, you're not afraid of the matrix anymore. That's all true. But also, you're going to have an individualistic mindset with self-improvement. If you focus on yourself and making yourself the best version you can be, you become closer and closer to being a lion by the day. A lion is not afraid of being by itself. A lion is not afraid. A big gorilla, a bear, a shark, whatever you want to call it, he can wander around alone. But these people, they are fish in a school. Literally in a fucking school. And the whole idea of being a fish in a school is, I have no weapons. I'm a weakling. But if I hang around with the other weaklings, I might not die because they'll die first. Their mentality is to be a loser in a big group and agree with the consensus. Look at all of the liberal influencers and ask yourself, if they weren't working for the machine, would they even be famous? Think about it. Harry Sisson, everywhere. The only reason we know his name is because the machine makes him known, because he works for the machine. Does he care about you? Does he even care about himself? Does he care about humanity? No. He only cares about pleasing the machine so the machine can make him relevant. Because if the machine stops pushing him, he's just another. They were lied to about going to college and how it would make them financially successful. It didn't wake them up. They were lied to that mass immigration would allow their country to stay safe. It didn't wake them up. Nothing seems to wake them up. Why? Why do they adhere to the ideals of the matrix, which are pushed into their brains by the mainstream media to the point where they will self-destruct? It is a form of cowardice. People who are believing in the matrix. You look at things like celebrities. Why do the celebrities support the matrix? Well, were they at Diddy parties? Yes. Are they all pedophiles? Yes. Are they Satanists? Yes. But also, there are a certain number of celebrities which lack individual merit, which wouldn't be famous without the machine. And for that reason, they need the machine, because the machine makes them famous. If the matrix chooses any singer, Lady fucking Gaga, and puts her in the schools, puts her on the news all the time, puts her in movies, talks about her all the time, she becomes famous. Is she famous because she's talented? Not really. Is she famous because she's interesting or unique? Not really. She's famous because the Matrix made her famous. She is famous from the machine, so she will always support the machine. The machine fed her. It's transactional. It goes back and forth. People who can be famous on actual merit, people who can be famous because they're particularly interesting, or particularly funny, or particularly unique, like myself, who have never had any Matrix help. In fact, the Matrix deleted me from only insulted me in mainstream media, deleted me from social media, told all the schools not to talk about me, banned me, threw me in jail with armed guards, put me in front of a judge to lock me in jail. I was attacked by the machine, and I am still famous despite the machine attacking me with all of its powers, because I'm a genuinely unique person. People who are genuinely unique are non-believers because the Matrix attacks us. It doesn't give us anything. It takes from us. And we believe in individual liberty and sovereignty. That's the other team. And if you actually look, it's very interesting. If you look at any of the people who used to work for the machine and had any semblance of talent or unique skills, knowledge, they ended up changing teams. Tulsi is an example. Tulsi Gabbard. RFK Jr., another example. These are people who were part of the machine, but when they started to talk in a way that didn't go exactly with what the machine wanted them to believe, the machine attacked them. So they changed teams over here. And this other team basically believes in abolishing the Matrix. We believe in a peer-to-peer system of information. So while the Matrix wants control over all information, it wants to have a very few outlets it can control the narrative for to get you all scared of COVID, believing Putin is bad, believing your government's good, believing open borders and migration are good, believing in climate change, the sun's gonna kill us, everyone be afraid. They want to control information. People over here on the other side, the other team, we want to do the opposite. We want there to be as many sources of information as possible because we believe in our own unique powers to counteract those ideas. So if I have an idea, I'm prepared to debate it and argue it and discuss it with anybody. And I'm not afraid. So I don't need censorship. I'll put my idea out there and I want everyone else to hear their ideas and we'll discuss it. We'll debate it. I have no problem with that. The liberals on this team, they don't want that. They want all opposing ideas shut down. The Matrix wants it shut down. And the main reason they want it shut down is because, remember, the purpose of the Matrix is to get as much power as possible, meaning it has no interest in the truth, meaning it is lying to you. It is lying to you every step of the way. Everything it says is a lie, because the only reason it's talking on your worst day, and they may be having their best day. This is the reality of life as a man. Now, you do not deserve what you don't appreciate. You need to appreciate this level battlefield, because the level battlefield is actually easy mode. You're never going to have an easier mode than a fair game as a full-grown man. Fair game's the best you can possibly hope for, because you're not a woman. You do not have pretty privilege. The universe does not want to give you things. Nobody feels sorry for you. Nobody cares about you. The best you can hope for is a fair shot. And a fair shot to me is easy mode, because I am the guy who's been out competing his opponents with a cold. I've been the guy who's been winning on hard mode. I've been the guy who stayed relevant and stayed rich in the face of the largest Matrix attack any influencer has been faced to endure.
Yeah.
I've been to jail. They took my banks. They locked me in Romania. They told me to shut up. They rearrested me 3 times. They threatened me. They locked up my women. They locked up the people I care about. Here I am. I win when I'm outgunned, outnumbered. I win when the game is rigged against me. I'm the kind of guy you drop off in the middle of Antarctica, naked in the snow, expecting him to freeze to death. And then you come home to your little girlfriend and find her in bed with me. That's how I am, who I am. Nobody knows how I got off Antarctica. Nobody knows how I got your bitch. I just did it. So a level fair game, a fair battlefield, it's so important you understand. The best thing you can do for Trump, for society, for your bloodline, for yourself, for humanity, is for you to appreciate this chance. So once again, let's understand the mechanics here, gentlemen. If you appreciate this chance, you will use it. A fair shot is the best you're ever going to get as a man. You hope for a calm sea so that you can use muscles, rowing power, and through sheer exhaustion, you can outcompete the waves of the ocean itself. If you do not appreciate this chance, you will waste it, meaning you do not deserve it, and it will be snatched from you because you will not have the masculine agency or capability to preserve the good times against the zombie horde. The zombie horde has not learned its lesson, has not changed. The mind virus is going nowhere. These feminists are sitting around popping Adderall, trying to find a way to get back on television and convince the youth of the world today to vote in favor of insane fucking policies as long as they get their abortions. They are regrouping. Your enemy is preparing and rearming. They are reloading their weapons. Mocking them from afar may be entertaining, but it is not what's going to be important in 4 to 6 years from now. What is going to be important is that our students, our audience, people who understand the right side of history, have used these chances to become as powerful as ever before, because you are going to need that power. If you do not appreciate what you have, you do not deserve it, and the universe will snatch it from you.
I think young men shouldn't talk so much. When I was young, I was focused on hard work. I was very focused on my kickboxing career and training very hard and listening to people. I think that one of the problems with the world today now, especially is with the internet, we have a bunch of young men speaking too much. So for a long time, especially in my 20s, I used my superhuman healing powers, which is what you have during that decade, to dedicate myself to nearly endless work and study. I was a very good student before I began to speak. And it was when my kickboxing career ended and also my father died. For some reason, I kind of felt like my time as the student was over and I could start to speak more about the things I'd learned. And also, I truly believe, not so much in Romania, because Romania's still got sanctity in regards to religious beliefs, but in the West especially, I don't think many Romanians truly understand how fallen the Western countries is, how satanic America and England are. And I truly believe that someone had to stand up and speak, and God gave me a platform, and I have the ability to affect young men with my voice. And I truly believe there's evil in the world, and good men don't stand by when evil is taking place, and someone needs to stand up and say the pertinently obvious things which can save the world. And I have this platform, and I'm going to speak them. So it just kind of evolved along with my influence. I don't believe I've let my father down. I believe my father's still watching me, and you're correct. I do carry his name. My father was a warrior. He died at war at the chessboard. I believe I've been a warrior my entire life. I think my father was smarter than I am. I don't think I'll ever be as intelligent as he was. He had a very special type of intellect. However, I have some other qualities he doesn't have, and The idea of having children in dynasty is to try and recreate better versions of yourself, to give them all the good things about you and perhaps remove some of the bad and try and curate this person into the perfect version of your last name. I was always instilled with a duty to my last name. I was told I had to perform as a Tate should perform. And that's why I cannot act with cowardice, is why I must stand up and tell the truth of what I believe is happening in the world, and tell the truth about the satanic agendas which I believe are happening in the West, and tell the truth about the fact that Tate have ruined Romania's reputation in a selfish bid to try and get promotions inside of their organization, and to sit and sell the truth. And I think that's my job, and I think that's what Tates have always done. And I don't think he's ever been disappointed in me, because I've never been a coward, and I never will be a coward. And if they walk in this room now to assassinate me, I'm going to go with a smile on my face. That's just how I am. That's how I was raised, and that's how Tates have always performed. I think that women fall for what they hear and men fall for what they see. And that's why women wear makeup and men tell lies. So it depends who you're trying to fool and why. But certainly women are easier to fool in some regards, depending on the tools at your disposal, and I can say the same for men. I wouldn't say one is easier than the other. I think that men and women are quite different. We have a different type of intelligence. But women certainly have an intellect. Women can be psychic sometimes. Women can just say, I know you were cheating, and she can have no proof at all, and she just knows. Women can have a certain type of intellect that I don't think men have. So overall, I'd say men are easier to fool. In regards to the original statement before the question, you were talking about the fact that the video chat models lie and sell a fantasy to men. That's true. That's not true for my models. That's true for the entire industry. And the man knows she's lying, and that's part of the fun. It's part of the game that people play. So I think the man wants to be fooled, because if she doesn't fool him or pretend to fool him, he's not interested. So it's part of the play. But overall, because I want to be a professional and give a compendious, concise answer, who's easier to fool, men or women? It's very interesting you asked me that question. I certainly don't hit a woman in anger. I never have. In fact, that video they're talking about, the woman herself came out and clarified it, and I think it's better that people listen to her than me, because it's her point of view and we should respect her as an adult to say what she believes. I don't think that was the reason I was removed from Big Brother either. The reason I was removed from Big Brother was because I was having arguments with the other men inside the house, and they thought it was going to get physical and a confrontation was about to happen, and they wanted me to sign a waiver that in the event of a confrontation I won't hit anybody. And I said, well, I'm not going to sign that. If it's self-defense, it's self-defense. And they were concerned for the welfare of the other little weaklings with big mouths, and they had to remove me. But I'm a big man, and I'm a professional fighter. And if I hit a woman, there wouldn't be any garbage case where I go to jail and there's no evidence and then I'm released. There would be medical evidence and pictures and videos and proof. The fact they're saying I hit this woman and this woman came out and said, no, he didn't hit me, it was a play game, I think that proves everything. So I don't need to hit women. I'm not a frustrated man. I also think that most of the world understands that when you find a man who beats women, he's called weak, he's called cowardly. Most of these men are frustrated. When I felt like fighting, I fought men. So I'm not frustrated. My life's extremely successful, and I have very good interactions with women overall. I have no problems in that department, so I don't hit women. Well, there's a lot of things I want to clarify in that statement. The first thing is that I was explaining a lot of women today want to get married because they want to have a wedding and they want to show off on Instagram and they want to wear a dress and they want to spend money. They don't want to be a wife. And to be a wife is something else. You have to dedicate yourself to your man and give yourself to the man. Hence why the father walks you down the aisle and gives you away and you take his last name. So to clarify the initial statement, I was saying the woman does belong to a man. If she becomes a wife, she should be looking to belong to him. That's the first thing. The second thing, there is a girl who has 50 tattoos who also got a tattoo with my name. That's true, but she has a bunch of tattoos. I don't think it's that significant. And there's a whole bunch of women I know, thousands of them, who don't have a Tate tattoo. So I don't own anyone. I think that we're all grown-ups, and I think it'd be very misogynistic to assume that women can't make their own decisions. And if a woman decides she wants to associate with me and I decide I want to associate with her, then we're consenting adults and we will do that. If she decides she doesn't want to, or I decide I don't want to, then the relationship will end. I don't own any women because I'm not married. But if I got married, I would see my wife as mine. Absolutely. I would have no interest in a marriage without that degree of ownership. Why would I want to marry a woman and say she's not mine? She would be mine, absolutely and utterly, which comes with good and bad. There's bad. I have a lot of responsibility. I have to pay her bills and protect her and take care of her and make sure that she has no problems and she's driving a nice fast car and living in a mansion. So absolutely there'd be some bad from it, but there's also some good. You're my woman. You can't go and party with all those men and drink alcohol. No, stay here with me. If that makes me a misogynist, like the BBC wants to say, then heaven forbid I'm a misogynist. But I think that's what every rational male and female believes. So I'm going to say it regardless of how they demonize me in the media. No, I have absolutely zero problems in England. In 2014, I was accused by a girl of hitting her. The police came to question me. The police then looked through her phone and saw conversations of her planning to get me in trouble with her friend, discussing with her friend what lies she would tell, and they instantly dropped the case. I then moved to Romania. I found Romania to be a beautiful country, and for a long time I laughed with my brother how crazy it is that a girl planned to lie to the police and wrote about it to her friend, and the police discovered the text messages, so the entire case was thrown away. Then it was very funny. A very corrupt DCOT prosecutor who was desperate to put me in jail for no reason besides his own career has come along, locked my brother and I up, saying that we've done bad things we haven't done. And that girl has also written to her friend and admitted how she will lie to the police and talked about how she will get an Oscar in text messages to her friend. Those text messages are also in the file, proving that her and her friend are lying from the absolute beginning. But for some reason, unlike the British state, which instantly released me because they understood it was falsified, the Romanian state decided to put me in jail for 3 months and keep me on house arrest for 5 months. I can't answer why that is. But I am completely free to move inside of the UK. I don't have a criminal record. I've never been convicted of anything. I've never been found guilty of any crime. I'm 37 years old and I have a clean conscience and a clear record. And in 2014, it was a very short-lived incident because the British authorities threw it away instantly, and now I'm waiting for the Romanian authorities to do the correct thing. It's funny how history repeats. Very interesting how history repeats.
If you're a full-grown adult, you should only ever ask for a favor. Asking me for a special shovel. You shouldn't be asking me to cheat. You should say, is it going to be fair? If he doesn't cheat and I don't cheat, I can beat him by sheer will. Because in a fair competition, quite often it is sheer will. It's the capability and ability to endlessly try, which will be the deciding factor. All you need to do is believe in yourself, believe in your capabilities, believe in your dedication, and you will win. And the game has changed fair for the first time as gatekeepers are losing their power over not only the economy, they're losing their power over the information, and by extension, when they lose control of the money and they lose control of the information, they lose control of the politics, they lose control of the governments, and this is. And we're also going to apply this. We're going to extrapolate it out because the point of science in the first place is for you to build a model that allows you to predict the future. That's what science is. Science is future prediction based on the past. If I drop this container of fire blood, it's going to fall to the table. How do I know that? Because every other time I've let go of something, gravity has acted. So I have a theory that allows me to predict the future based on the past. That is science. That gravity will act upon this container of fire blood and it will drop. If I cannot use the past to build a predictable model for the future, it is not science. Pattern recognition in and of itself, right? It's extremely important. So I don't know for sure. I mean, I would bet 100%. But the only way for me to know what's going to happen to this container is if I actually drop it. But based on everything that ever previously happened, it will fall. Seems the laws have not changed. So by understanding certain models, you can extrapolate them out and apply them to other things. If I can explain to you why the average dickhead in California was voting for Kamala even though she destroyed their life, you can then apply that to information. You can apply that to making money with cryptocurrencies. You can apply that to everything because scientific models can be the Matrix. Now, what is the Matrix? In the movie, the Matrix is false information which is beamed directly into your mind so that they can harvest your body for body heat until you expire. They distract your mind with garbage, with fake information so they can use your body until you die. That is in the movie. Here in the real world is exactly the same. The Matrix is a false version of events. You're living in a false reality. Why? You're not allowed to decide on a sliding scale how bad he is. You're not allowed to understand the subtleties. You're not allowed to understand the subjectivity. No, he is 100% bad. Everything he has ever done is always bad. He has never done anything good in his life ever. He was a completely crazy person that doesn't function under any normal, rational human functions. He is an insane person and he is bad. They need you to believe this so they can then send billions and billions of your dollars. No Russian soldiers ever come to your house. No Russian man's ever shot you. They've never taken anything from you. Why do you even distrust Russian people? Why are they any less trustworthy than Romanians or French or people from the United Arab Emirates or Indonesians? Because the mainstream media and Hollywood, via James Bond, etc., have convinced you that the Russians are evil people. Hollywood and the mainstream media are effectively propaganda arms or information centers for world governments. And anybody who believes in the mainstream media's objectivity is not thinking logically, because if you understand that the Matrix has various arms to exert control, one of them being the military-industrial complex, the Matrix uses bombs and guns to kill people. Why would it allow the mainstream media to talk against the objective? The mainstream media has no interest in objectivity. It has no interest in being fair, ever. It has no interest in telling the truth, ever. The mainstream media's objective is to make you believe what the Matrix needs you to believe. And the Matrix's primary objective is to consolidate power. If they need power to push their narratives and objectives, we just explained how they cannot control 1 million people telling the truth. They need to have a few newspapers, which they do control. If consolidation of power equals a more powerful Matrix, then the Matrix's primary objective in all realms is only going to be to endlessly consolidate power. Let me give you a simple example of this. Common person believe anything the Matrix says when their own eyes.
So now I do feel like I have a massive responsibility on my shoulders. And then when you understand you have a massive responsibility, you say, okay, what am I going to do with this? What's my actual mission? What am I trying to achieve? And I'm trying to make the world a better place. And I do think that to a degree, some of the flash and the sex and the women and the cars and whatever is part of that. Because if you want to teach teenage boys how to grow into men, they have to want to be like you. And what do teenage boys want? To a degree, right? You can't say, here's me, Mr. Boring, here's how to live, because they're not going to listen to you. Because everyone's already trying that. And that's why they're so lost, because they don't have a hero. So a hero's going to have that element to him, for sure. But yeah, I mean, what you're saying about one woman, absolutely. Like when I went to jail, you lose absolute respect or any desire for women who won't send you a letter. Oh, we're cool when I'm outside. We're cool when life's good. I go to jail. You don't send me a letter. And then I come out of jail and they're like, I missed you so much, but you didn't send me a letter. You didn't find time. 3 months. Oh, I didn't know how. Randoms worked it out. So randoms were outside playing love songs. Where the fuck were you? Oh, I missed you. Bollocks. So I've lost a lot of respect for certain people. Sure. And then when the respect goes, the attraction disappears. And then I've gained a lot of respect for others. And then, yeah, and that's a really good question. It's interesting how you just said that about the masculine side of you, because I think every man deals with that battle, right? We want to make her happy and we want to provide to her, but also we want to be respected. And it's a fine line that we have to walk in regards to making her happy as we investigate you. And you're rich and you can run away. So yes, go to jail. It's frustrating. This is the first time I get to actually show my evidence. And I don't see how a judge can disagree with what I'm going to say and show. It's pretty black and white. Well, that's an interesting question. And I have to show, once again, respect to the country of Romania. And I'm going to stay in Romania no matter what when this is over, whether I win or lose. I'm not going to leave this country. I'm not going to run away. My brother has Romanian children. I have Romanian nieces now. We have a lot of Romanian houses. Our life's here. We've been here a very long time. I believe I'm going to be found completely innocent because the evidence that we have is more than substantial. It's insane amounts of evidence that show that we're completely and utterly innocent. I believe we're going to be found innocent. I believe that God, like I said, the moral arc of the universe bends towards truth. I think Martin Luther King said that. It just takes a while. Sometimes you look at the world and say, it's all just run by falsehood and lies. But I think the moral arc, although it's long, in the end bends towards truth. It's hard to hide truth forever. And the truth will come out and we'll be exonerated. And I look forward to that day and repairing my reputation and getting back to my normal life and just looking at this whole saga, this whole story, and taking the lessons from it and trying to be the best possible person I can be, protect myself for the future the best way I can, and go from there. And if it goes a different way, if I end up in jail, and there were some fights on the card, some big fights for me being organized in November. And I said to them, look, I don't give a shit about PPV and gate tickets. I want X amount of million up front. Expecting them to say no. And they're like, okay. I was like, all right, well, it's a lot of money. So it was all organized. And then I went to jail. So now it's all off. This trial might last 2 or 3 years. Then I'll be 40. So then it's pretty much too late, which is a shame because at 36, I could still do it. I could still teach them all a lesson right now. But fair play to them. I mean, they're young guys and they're getting attention and they're bringing life back into the sport of boxing, and it's good. I have a slight suspicion it might die down soon if they don't get some better matchups. But overall, I wish them the best. And I think it's better to be training hard in boxing than what did they do before? Put on Pokemon costumes and dance around like clowns? Fucking idiots. This is the thing with most influencers. I can't. It's kind of interesting because I've become the biggest name in one of the biggest names in online space, but I don't know much about most of this other online stuff. I can't watch it. Someone said to me, hey, this big Twitch guy said this about you. I'm like, Twitch? Okay, Twitch. I know what Twitch is. Who the fuck watches Twitch? Who watches Twitch? I go and I click on the account and it's thousands of idiots watching a video game. Like, it's just asinine. It's brain dead garbage. I don't know who these people are. Influencer. You look up an influencer on YouTube and look at what the shit they're doing. Look at I wore a Pokemon costume and bought Pokemon cards. LOL. It's just
cringe.
Yeah, bro. It's so embarrassing. I can't watch any of this shit. So at least they're boxing instead of doing that crap.
There's a broader point here. The broader point is this. This goes on to the real world and why we had to move HU to the real world and change everything to our own servers, etc., etc. Anything that is large and influential, which is controlled by the Matrix, will eventually be weaponized against you. What does Morpheus say? Anybody who is not unplugged can become an agent at any time. You have football, traditionally a masculine sport, by traditionally masculine men, and it's traditionally been a man's world where men do masculine things, go into the football game, etc. Because it is controlled by the Matrix, the money is controlled by the Matrix, the TV shows, the TV programs which show the games is controlled by the Matrix. Because it's still controlled by the Matrix, eventually they will take it and they will weaponize it against you. Mm-hmm. If I was a football fan, I'd be furious. Haven't you seen in real time how they've weaponized one of the last masculine pastimes of the Western world, and they're now using it to force an agenda that you don't care about? Most football fans don't care about this crap,
nor
right?
Should they?
Why would they? But they've got the players under contract, and the players pretend to give a shit because they're cucked. And the TV channels say, if you want our money to show your games, you better cuck. And everyone cucks out left, right, and center. Anything that is controlled by the Matrix will eventually be weaponized and used against you, which is why it's so important you have entities outside of the Matrix. They're the only ones that are safe. You can apply this to anything. Look at any large YouTuber. Any large YouTuber. You may have had a pure soul at the beginning. You may have had honest intentions at the beginning. But eventually, when you become large enough on YouTube, the only way you stay on YouTube is to sell your soul and to cuck out and start saying shit you barely believe, reading from your phone like fucking Logan Paul. Unless you sell your soul and become an agent of the Matrix, you are eventually going to be destroyed and removed. They do not want anything and anyone to have influence that they do not control. That's why they try to get rid of us. Because we have influence, we influence the masses, lots of people know who we are, people respect us and respect our opinion, and when they came to us and tried to make us sell our souls, we said fucking no. We won't say things we don't believe in. We won't sell shit to fucking kids. We won't be a sellout. Satanists, people who worship Satan, believe in karmic retribution. They believe that they can suffer the consequence of lying and tricking you. So the very simple premise is this. If I sell poison apples and I write apples and you come and eat one, I poisoned you. But if I sell poison apples and I have a sign that says apples, they're poison, and you come and eat one, you committed suicide. I haven't murdered you, you've committed suicide.
That's what Satanists believe.
Satanists believe by telling you what they're doing, they don't have any karmic retribution. I'm not responsible for the I'm not responsible for all the negative fallout from my actions if they understood what I was doing and allowed me to do it. This is why they show you and tell you what they're doing. If I show you and tell you that we are pedophiles and you continue to buy our products, then you're supporting pedophilia and you're obviously okay with us being pedophiles. If I do it hidden behind your back, then you can argue and say, I didn't know they were pedophiles. But by showing you, I've shown you I'm a pedophile. You still want to wear my t-shirt. So obviously what I'm doing is okay. And this karmic retribution model and the way that Satanists view the world, and when I say Satanists, I genuinely mean people who worship real Satan. The people who are in charge of these brands and in charge of the Western world and in charge of the Matrix genuinely worship Satan. When you understand the idea of karmic retribution, you can apply that to so many scenarios. They're doing this with everything. Karmic retribution isn't just about Balenciaga is here, and I kind of feel like there's a revolution going on. I feel like we're living in a time now where the revolution's coming because the pendulum's been swinging towards the darkness for so long. And finally, there's glimmers of hope. And I kind of feel like it all began when they canceled me.
It did kind of begin when they canceled you, didn't it?
Didn't it all begin when I got canceled? Think about it. Now we have Twitter back under Elon's control. I'm back on Twitter. Rumble is now getting larger and larger. It's about to overtake YouTube. Like, things are happening after they canceled me. It's almost like the forces of good, the soldiers of God, managed to get their Aikido against the enemies of the Matrix.
Mark Zuckerberg's lost over $100 million because his companies are valueless. Shout out to Elon Musk. You're back on Twitter. You want to talk about that for a second? Andrew Tate, at Cobra Tate, the original handle that you all knew from the other platforms, is back on Twitter. He's been reinstated.
Because this is the thing. Most people, because God has given us a conscience, most people are genuinely good. If you allow all people to speak, you will realize that it's a very small, feral group of psychopaths who believe all these insane ideas which have been protected by these social media companies, which are now agents of the Matrix, of course. So it's very interesting now that the tides are changing, and I'm not going to state this with arrogance. I state this with genuine belief that all of this began to happen when I was banned. My banning was the final straw that broke the camel's back, and I said this multiple times. I said it in my 3-stage plan. I said that getting banned was part of my plan, and I also said that people were fed up with the social media companies and fed up with the censorship, and that there's a lot of pressure behind the dam. And the only crack that was needed in the dam for it to finally break was for someone like me to prove that cancellation doesn't work, so people start to speak up. And that, along with the momentum of other people and other freedom fighters that exist in the world, along with the will of God, along with the fact that platforms are now starting to be owned by people who genuinely believe in free speech, along with the fact that the other platforms which are not owned by people who believe in free speech, like Mark Zuckerberg and Meta, for example, they are now starting to suffer massively. They're starting to fail in real time. We're living through a revolution, and the revolution is absolutely not really important for humanity as a whole. And we obviously have our own platform now. We have the real world, something we've built completely outside of the Matrix. That's why I was talking earlier about why you cannot leave anything influential inside of the Matrix. Look at what happened with the football, with Qatar. Look at what happened with Facebook. Bro, I'll argue right now that Mark Zuckerberg didn't intend on being a dictator. He was a guy who made a website. But over time, the Matrix gets influence over you, gets leverage over you. Power corrupts. And before you know it, you're now a tool for the Matrix. So when you build something influential and important, like we have with HU, 175,000 people making money, you have to understand it has to be taken away from the Matrix or they're going to come and attack it. And that's what happened to us. They came to us. Obviously, they destroyed our payment process, destroyed the cancellation. Before that, they're trying to say what things we can teach, what things we can't teach. And those really important lessons they wouldn't let us teach because we were looking at losing our servers. That's why we had to come and build everything ourselves. So anything that's inside the Matrix will be corrupted and eventually used against you. But this is the first time we're now starting to see previously Matrix-held platforms change sides. And as the pendulum swings back from darkness into light, it's going to be one of the most beautiful periods of human history. I can't wait for the legacy media and the Matrix and the mainstream enemies of humanity, the people who are no longer humanist, to try and purport another lie like the one they just tried to convince the world of for the last few years, now that we can speak freely. And you'll see the importance of free speech. You'll see that being able to speak freely and having different opinions is not simply about sitting around having a little argument with your friends. It's genuinely about the good of humanity as a whole. This is absolutely not really important for how humanity functions. And that's why when you see anybody who is anti-free speech, like Cuck Logan Paul, who sold out to the Matrix, when you see these people, they're not just stupid. They're genuinely bad people. Anyone who can read a history book knows that those who censor were always the bad guys. And the world is changing. We're changing from darkness into light. And I feel like it all began with my cancellation. So if I had to be martyred for this to happen, then I'm very glad it did happen. It was absolutely not really worth it. And I knew the cancellation was going to come. It was part 1 of my 3-stage plan. Part 2 was always the real world, so you could escape the Matrix. And part 3 will be the most beautiful thing that's ever happened in the history of humanity. I genuinely believe it's going to be a pivotal moment for humanity as a whole.
If you run a website for contact lenses and you don't know how to advertise it, you shouldn't be running a website for contact lenses. How do I cut out a woman that I like but I know is toxic for me? Hey, Andrew, how do I stop injecting heroin into my veins when I know it's bad for me? Hey, Andrew, how do I stop jerking off to porn every single day when I know it's bad for me and lowers my testosterone? Your brain is in control. It controls your hands. Your brain controls your decisions. If you know the answer, Why would you ask me to hear me shout at you, to hear me get mad at you? If she's toxic for you, bro, don't pick up your phone and don't send messages. Your hands are controlled by your brain. It's the same for people who can't stop drugs. It's the same for people who can't stop their bad habits like masturbation. If this girl's genuinely bad for you and you know it, why the fuck are you asking me? What do you want me to do? Fuck her and take her away from you? I'm not going to. She's toxic. Yeah. You know what to do.
Truthfully, and I'll give another version of the answer. The reason, if you have one meal and you're hungry, it's all you're going to eat. You have to replace her, bro.
Yeah, you have to.
That's the simple answer. Get out there and find some new girls and replace her. And if you find some new girls and replace her, it's the only way you're ever going to get over her. That's the easiest way. Also, for your contact lenses thing, if you want to learn marketing and learn how to sell, we already teach that and you know where. So you can learn it inside of the real world.
Speaking of drug use and drug overuse, me and Andrew were talking earlier, me and you were discussing, that one of the best things about Dubai, I feel like one of the stains on the canvas of a beautiful society. If you're trying to paint a beautiful society, you're an artist, you have your paintbrushes. Drug use and heavy drug use is a stain on the canvas. It is impossible to paint a masterpiece on a flawed and stained canvas. So when you look at very safe, wonderful societies like the United Arab Emirates, on the base level, before you even begin analyzing how the people behave, how the leadership works, how the money is spent, this country is drug-free. So you do not have people ending up violent, ending up desperate enough to feed their habit to steal from people. And if there's one thing me and Andrew have always said to everybody since we've ever been online, we have been anti-drug. So we're going to talk about some drug users that you know in a minute, because I know you want to get onto them. But a point that I've never made about drug use, when people ask, whoa, why are you so anti-drugs? Why did you never try drugs? I'm going to explain exactly why. And I want the people who are watching to listen to me very carefully, because maybe you come from where I'm come from, or maybe you come from a more privileged upbringing, a better society. And let me tell you something. The privileged and the rich and the people who grow up in LA with millionaire dads and grow up in London with rich, successful parents, they're much more likely to get hooked on drugs. They're certainly much more likely to try cocaine. And I'm going to explain to you exactly why. The internet is now your enemy because drugs look fun. Drugs look fun. They make drugs look fun. You have the internet. Lots of people are using drugs. All the music is talking about drugs. Yeah, we're on Molly. We're on Zen. This is great. We love drug use. And when you come from a privileged society, you are there and you're in LA. The big DJs are taking drugs. The Hollywood celebrities are taking drugs. Your neighbors are taking drugs. Everyone's on drugs and drugs look fun.